The NDC's candidate in the 2020 presidential race, John Mahama, is calling for a forensic audit of the results of the just-ended election to confirm the actual winner. In an interview with US radio network Voice of America, he promised he will concede defeat if the audit proves he lost the election. He says the country will miss an opportunity to right wrongs that occurred in the election if the outcome of the poll is not scrutinized.
In the run-up to the election, there were a lot of flaws in the process, and we kept drawing attention to them. And it's like the Electoral Commission was adamant to our call, but on election day, we saw exactly what happened. This is the most incompetent election we've had. I mean, everything about this election does not reach the standard that Ghana's Electoral Commission, has attained for itself. Ghana's Electoral Commission is held in high esteem as one of the best electoral commissions. Unfortunately, this election, she can't even get the results right. The declaration is all over the place.
Mr. President, I saw your press conference where you rejected the result. So with this rejection, what are you going to do to make your case to the people of Ghana? Since you said they voted for you, how are you going to convince them that you won the election?
Well, we know we did, and we are currently doing a forensic audit of all the constituencies. First, to establish what happened there, and then secondly, to reconfirm the figures that we have. Because this case might end up in court, I don't know. I cannot mention anything for now, but we're doing an audit, and based on that, we'll take whatever decision we need to take. But I think that the incompetence the EC has shown, it will be useful for us to do a forensic audit of the EC's own systems and the numbers to come to what the final number for the EC is, because as of now, I don't know what number they're going to gazette.
But Mr. President, what is your reaction to the African Union poll observer mission that came out saying that the elections were transparent and credible and that most people were not prevented from voting? The ECOWAS poll observer mission led by Madam Johnson Sirleaf said the same thing, that it was peaceful and transparent. So what do you say to these prominent African organizations that monitored the poll, pretty much giving a stamp of approval to the elections?
Normally, when you have an observer mission like that, you need to wait and see their final report, because often they give the report up to the point of counting. And it's true, I mean, the whole day was peaceful. People went about, voting without any problems, and the queues were orderly, and so they'll say all that. And there were a few instances of people caught with pre-printed ballot sheets. I mean, the video evidence is there. Normally, their final report will capture the collation process, and so this report does not capture the collation process. And a lot went wrong with the collation process.
Mr. President, 4 years ago, when you lost the election, you handed over peacefully. I was here in Accra when you held a news conference that you had called then opposition leader Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to concede. People are saying you have proven that you are a true Democrat. They said, why are you not doing the same thing now?
In the interest of the more than 6 million people who voted for me, I must uphold our democracy and hold our Electoral Commission to higher standards, and hold this government to a higher standard in terms of our democracy. I mean, the way they've conducted this election, the government, President Akufo-Addo, and the Electoral Commission, is a dent to our democratic credentials as a government. And so, in my principles as a Democrat, I can't be seen to be sweeping it under the carpet and just letting it go. I think that we must bring closure to this by seeing exactly, where the issues are. And I mean, if an independent audit is done by the EC, we bring somebody in to crunch the numbers, do an independent audit. If I lost, why not? I mean, I'll be the first to concede and, walk away. But as long as that is not done, and I know that there was a deliberate attempt to subvert the will of the people in favor of the incumbent, it will be wrong for me in terms of our democratic practices to just leave it, because we will not learn the lessons of this election. I think that we must learn the lessons of this election so that we don't repeat it in a future.
Now, the National Democratic Congress has meanwhile continued its protest over the results of the just-ended election as declared by the Electoral Commission. The party's flag bearer, John Mahama, insists the results are fraudulent and that Nana Akufo-Addo is not the winner of the presidential race. In Sefwi-Wiaso, the supporters organized a protest to demand the retrieval of a missing ballot box. According to a former Western Regional Minister, Paul Evans-Edu, who is leading the protest, the EC could not have declared the results of the constituency without ascertaining the content of that particular ballot box. The NDC contends that should the ballot box be found, the votes counted, the NDC will win the parliamentary election in the Sefwi-Wiaso constituency. Here is Paul Evans-Edu.
It's a protest march towards the Electoral Commission. During the voting period, there was a particular ballot box which got missing. Voted or printed ballot papers. Unfortunately, for our party, the box got missing. At the time that we were bringing the box out, somebody snatched by accident or nobody knows. But the Electoral Commission was aware, the police and the military, everybody was aware. There was no way that we could say will get missing without any of.
Well, some supporters of the NDC who participated in the protest have been speaking with Joynews.
We're going to do it till. And they know what we want. And then we're going to seek for that. We are going to seek for it. And then they know what, if they give to us, we're going to get down coolly and then settle matters. They should give us our victory. That's all we should give them for. That's it.
We need the missing ballot.
The missing ballot is going to be found today. We know it with the EC. An EC official and then the police officer.
On protest, there was heavy state security military deployment at the office of the Electoral Commission in the Ashanti region as supporters of the National Democratic Congress protested the 2020 results. The protesters demanded to meet the regional head of the commission, who had directed them to leave a petition behind. Leader of the protest, Dr. Hannah Bisu, insists they will declare the former president winner of the 2020 election if the commission refuses to rescind its earlier declaration for the MPP. Nana Aljuma followed the all-women protest of the NDC and filed this report.
Led by the national women's organizer of the NDC, Hannah Bisu, supporters of the opposition party went through the streets of Kumasi to protest the 2020 election results. The procession started from the party office at Amekum. The NDC Women's Wing says they will risk everything to see their flag bearer, John Mahama, declared president-elect. They say no amount of intimidation from security services will make them rescind their decision. Women's organizer Hannah Bisu spoke to Joynews.
And before there can be peace, there should be to your tables. Get back with the various political parties and let the voices of the voiceless that we voice out through our tongues on 7 December be heard.
It took police personnel to restrain the agitated women from attacking onlookers who disagreed with them. Behind me is a barricade the police have made to restrain the NDC supporters from getting access to the Regional Coordinating Council, which leads to the office of the EC. Now, what the police are doing is that they are calling out officials of the EC to meet them and find out why they are here. They continue to chant, "No Mahama, no peace." There was heavy police and military deployment to secure the office of the EC. The NDC did not hand over a petition, even though a staff of the commission was present to receive it.
We were here to speak to the EC, but we realized that they've gone. Our petitions will get to the right places. Because in any case, nobody sends a petition to the chief armed robber when an armed robber robs him. So we will not bring it to you. But we are making our voices to be heard as women. We are making our voices to be heard as mothers, as wives, as aunties, as grandmothers. That we want peace in this country.
From Kumasi for Joynews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, the Ghana Police Service has meanwhile warned organizers of such events about the Public Order Act. Police Public Affairs Director Sheila Beye-Bachman says most of the protests are without recourse to the law, which mandates organizers to inform the police ahead of such protests.
The police administration has noticed with concern the disregard for the Public Order Act when people want to go on procession or demonstration or such special events. And so we are calling on organizers and participants of demonstrations and such special events to give due regard to the Public Order Act, which requires that they give notice to police at least 5 days before holding the event. And we want to remind them that failure to do so amounts to an offense which can lead to various penalties, including imprisonment. Also, if any crimes are committed in the course of such unlawful demonstrations, all participants are jointly responsible for the crimes. But as we remind them, we also want to assure the public that measures have been put in place to contain such unlawful demonstrations. We have had to close some roads and do diversions and impress on some facilities to close for the safety of human lives and properties. We regret such actions, but we ask the public to bear with us because all these measures are for the protection of lives and property and for our general safety.